Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Believing in this principle, welcome to Murray Lakshman Reddy Group of Institutions, providing world-class education and research facilities to help transform people's lives for the better. It is the brainchild of a visionary who conceived and promoted it in 2005. Meet the man, Shri Murray Lakshman Reddy, who ushered in the silent mission. A mission to provide technological advancement from time to time, with the aim of imparting education with global standards to enrich values with knowledge in students. Succeeding the paths of Shri Murray Lakshman Reddy, making education a positive experience. Shri Murray Rajashekhara Reddy, Founder Secretary, nurtured MLR Group of Institutions to win the pride of being recognized as one among top engineering colleges in Telangana for the past consecutive academic years. Situated in vast and peaceful area of 35 acres, students here tend to learn experimenting their life projects through centers of excellence, which is tied up with various industries. Spacious and comfortable classrooms, corridors, advanced laboratories with equipped ultra-modern audio-visual technology auditorium accommodating 1,000 plus audience, separate hostels for boys and girls. Each student is specially taken care for the provision of health facilities and hygienic food in spacious and eco-friendly canteen, etc. are salient features of MLR Group of Institutions. AICTE recognized MLR Group of Institutions accredited by NAC with A grade and has NBA accreditation for all programs. MLR Sports Complex and inaugurated by MLR Group of Institutions with most advanced multi-sports facilities like cricket stadium, badminton court, table tennis, billiards and basketball, etc. MLR Sports Complex organizes many national and international university-level sports fests by grooming every aspirant in competing national and international sports forums. Successfully achieved 50 gold medals, 13 silver medals and 16 bronze medals at various national and international sports events. MLR Group providing free admissions every year by supporting aspirant under sports quota with scholarships for the meritorious sportspersons to pursue their career in sports and opportunities in government sectors. To sharpen and extricate students' creativity and entrepreneurial skills, MLR Group has established Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship with facilities like Social Square, Innovation Hub and Makerspace. The Makerspace is a technical prototyping platform for students' innovation and invention, which is loaded with ultra-modern equipments such as multimedia workstations, 3D printers, CNC machines, laser cutters, and thus provides stimulus for student entrepreneurs. The center has collaboration with various government and non-government ministries for raising seed fund to incubate student projects and startups. This center has developed 8 plus market-ready products and supported 11 plus student startups. MLR Group has set up livelihood business incubation in association with Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise (MSME) to promote new technology or livelihood-based enterprises. Research and Development Cell has 12 centers of excellence in association with various industries and supports faculty and student research. It also has a track record of 25 plus funded projects, 700 plus SCI or Scopus journal articles and 35 plus intellectual property rights, and the progress continues. In preparing the aspirants to the real-world competitiveness, MLR Group of Institutions has introduced Indo-Universe Collaboration for Engineering Education IUCEE to introduce outcome-based student-centric education and Bloom's taxonomy-based teaching, learning and evaluation process, engineering projects in community services, EPICS, in association with Purdue University, USA. Scope: School of Programming Practices to hone the coding and programming skills. Students' Platform for Engineering Education Development, SPEED, empowers the students to become a factor of change in engineering education and its effect on society and environment. Club Literary to organize MUN, TEDx Talks and Techno-Cultural Fest to uplift student communication and English skills to the global forum. MLR Library is fully loaded with diversified study material, books, national and international journals with dedicated digital library, along online subscription to massive open online courses, IEEE, Elsevier, Springer, ACM journals, etc. MLR assures the safety and security of the students. Its transport infrastructure includes modern and secure vehicles, strictly complied with RTA regulations, and well-maintained safety standards. MLR Group of Institutions having faculty of nationwide experienced and renowned adjunct professors include the expert scientists of DRDO, DRDL, HAL, BHEL, SAE India, ECIL and Jain team, imparts education with pure practical inputs, offers courses in BTech, Aeronautical Engineering, Computer Science Engineering, Civil Engineering, Electronics and Communication Engineering, Electrical and Electronics Engineering, Information Technology, Mechanical Engineering, MTech with Aerospace Engineering, Computer Science Engineering, Embedded Systems, Digital Systems and Computer Electronics, CAD or CAM Engineering, Thermal Engineering. MLR proudly announces that till now, 75% of their students have grabbed the opportunities with average salary package of 6 lakh by holding premier positions in top-notch companies in global market. MLR relies always on the philosophy that intelligence plus character. This is the goal of education.
ఏమైందంటే అమ్మా ఏమి చెప్తా చూడు చెప్తా తిరిగిద్దాం నీ చెప్పలేదు నీ అది కాదమ్మా విను నీ చెప్పేది నీ చెప్తా స్టూడెంట్స్ ఇవాళ పేరెంట్ ఏమైందంటే నాకు యూనివర్సిటీకి వచ్చేసారు ఇక్కడ నుంచి మీ యూనివర్సిటీకి వస్తే నేను ఫోన్ చేసి ఆడి తక్కువ ఉంటాయమ్మా ఫస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఆల్ బడ్జెట్ తక్కువ అమ్మాట అవునా ఈ బడ్జెట్ తక్కువ కదా ఈ బడ్జెట్ 45 కోట్లు మరి చాలా మంది ఉంటారు కదా
Sorry for the inconvenience, sir. There was some participant who was not on mute. Hello. Jain, sir. Dr. Jain, you have to unmute yourself.
Wait a minute. Yes, I have unmuted.
Sir, can you please start your video so that...
Okay. You want to... wait a minute. Audio, video.
Yes, sir.
Is okay?
Yes, sir. I'm just spotlighting your video for everyone.
Okay.
So, good afternoon, everyone. We are back to the session 2 of the third day of the FTP. And as promised, we have with us Dr. PK Jain from Scientist G, Head Center for Carbon Materials, ARCI, DST. So, sir, warm welcome to you to the session on behalf of Aeronautical Department and the management of MLR Institute of Technology to the session, sir. So, Dr. Jain has is interested in research areas like exofiliated graphite and its products, synthesis, characterization, and application of nanostructured carbon materials, carbon nanotube, graphene, etc., field emissions of CNTs, conducting polymers, structural nanocomposites, polymer and metal matrix, nanofluids and nanolubrications, carbon fiber reinforced composites. Dr. Jain has been awarded B.D. Bangur Award for Indian Carbon Society, New Delhi, on outstanding contribution to carbon composites and carbon nanomaterials in November 2009. Boys Cast Fellowship from Government of India DST to work on advanced materials in collaboration with Russia. He worked as a visiting scientist in Institute of Gas, Ukraine, National Academy of Sciences, Ukraine, for 1 month in the 1998. He was awarded Best Scientist Award in Physics 2016 by Pearl Foundation Educational Excellence Awards to Higher Education in India 2016, Best Scientist Award by Academic Brand Award 2017, NCR 2016, Certificate of Merit from Agra University. He's elected as a council member of Indian Carbon Society since 1999 and joint secretary since Feb 2007. He's a member of Bureau of Indian Standards Committee for Nanomaterials of India. So he has been a part of innumerable workshops and conferences, adding or transferring technology on exofiliated graphics and its value-added products to Falcon Industries, development of gaskets for Ministry of Railways, developing pure graphite seals for turbine engine applications, reinforced graphite cylinder gasket sheet for automobile applications, project for AP minerals for ore characterization, evaporation board used in metallurgical applications to supervac oils, consultation project for Tamil Nadu minerals, etc. His He has been a research scholar in National Physical Laboratory NPL New Delhi from 1998 to 1994, and from 1994 to till date, he has been Scientist C to Scientist G, ARCI DST Hyderabad. Sir, it is a pleasure to have you here, who is having a huge experience in the field of nanocomposites, carbon materials. So, welcome you to the gathering. The
Thank
stage
you.
is all yours. You
Thank you,
can,
Shweta.
yeah,
Thank you, Shweta.
yes.
It's should I share my screen?
Yes, sir, you can start sharing your screen.
Uh, yes. Now it is visible.
Yes, sir. Slideshow, you
Oh,
can keep the
yeah.
slideshow. Yes, sir.
Now it is okay.
Yes, sir, perfect.
Okay. Right. Good. Thank you, Shweta, for nice introduction, and thanks to management of Mallaredi College. This is really a pleasure, and talking with the aerospace group is always be a good. The
So this
topic
is MLR College, sir.
MLR. Okay,
Yes, sir.
MLR. Okay, MLR. Malla Lakshma Reddy College. Huh?
Marri Lakshman Reddy
Sorry,
College.
Lakshmi. Very sorry, extremely, because name is
No,
very important. Otherwise, all look same.
yes, sir.
Lakshmi Reddy College, but the important thing is aeronautical group is organizing this is important.
Yes, sir.
Very thanks. And since it is a composite, nano composite talk, before going into the talk, I'll just tell a few lines about our organization. what our organization is. We are in autonomous R&D institutes of Department of Science and Technology, is a part of Government of India. We are not very big. We are about 160 employees. Out of that, 65, 70 are the scientists, and 60 are the technical cadre, and 45 are the administrative staff. But we have a very good support from out. We have outsourced many services like our security, electrical, waters, and other things. Apart from that, we have about 150 team of students. Out of them, 70 are pursuing their PhDs, and many of them are doing their MTech projects. So, like that, we have a very good support of students, and they are our main workforce. But what makes us different from other institute is our mandate. We are not into that basic R&D, or we are not into that production. We are in between. So we develop the materials or the process high perform for a niche market, and then eventually we demonstrate the technology at pilot level or a prototype production we do, and then transfer it to the Indian industry. Now the second point, the demonstration of technology at a pilot level, is very, very important. What happens, like in colleges, in our graduations, undergraduations, and post graduations, we do a lot of projects, and sometimes projects gives us a new results, and these new results are exciting. We publish into a paper, into a good journals, but is that sufficient to excite the industry, that okay, this new research can he take into the market? No, it is not that easy. So for that you require some sort of a upscaling, and upscaling is not in a one step, from a basic test tube you take it into the production. So you have a some sort of a confidence build up setup, which is called a pilot level. This pilot level also changes from material to material, for sometimes from 1 kilogram to 100 kilogram also comes under pilot scale production. So we demonstrate the technology into a pilot scale, and then what happens after this thing, the industry come forward and then take the technology to the end for the commercial exploitation. Now our center ARCI has been divided into many centers of excellence. Center for nanomaterials, center for carbon material, which I am looking after, center for ceramic processing, center for non-oxide ceramics, laser processing, engineering coating, sol gel coating, solar material. And we have two centers located in Chennai, that is Center for Fuel Cells and Center for Automotive Materials. And we have a very strong characterization center. Almost all the characterization facilities of materials are available with us. And apart from that, we have another very interesting center is called Center for Technology Transfer. As I told you, we are in the business of technology transfer. So what happened, the industry, whichever is come forward to interact with us, they understand the language of profit. We understand the language of science or technology. So there is an intermediate, a bridge center, which understand both the requirement, and then IP protections, who will be the owner, or suppose the product goes into deep into the market and then more profit comes, how to share the profit, all these things the technology transfer group look after. And sometimes they give us the feedback also. Suppose we have developed, we are working carbon, so we are developing a particular type of product, then these people, they go into the various exhibitions, various stalls they conduct, all platform, various platforms, they come back, no, the now market is looking after this product, can you develop? So we also take the feedback from this technology transfer group and then try to develop the product accordingly. So till now, we have transferred many technologies. Here is a list of few. And sometimes some technologies are so exciting that we transfer it to the more than one receiver. And this is a continuation. The last two activities I was directly involved. I was the project lead for exfoliated graphite, or expanded graphite and its value added product. Various products were developed, and then evaporation boards for metallizing industries. This was transferred to a Delhi based company, and the first one was the Hyderabad based company. Now coming to the talk, since it is a composite a talk mainly, and on nanomaterials, so I'll first talk about the composite. What exactly is composite, or why composite is required? So for structural applications, you don't require, because steel is always doing a very good job. It is a low cost material. It can serve all the purpose, but there are some challenges like high installation cost, It over a period of time, the corrosion becomes a issue. It is heavy, and you require efforts are required in fabrication, and maintenance costs are also very high. So all those things were replaced by composite. There is a low installation cost is very low. It is non-corrosive. All those things are very good, but the initial cost is high, and because of that, composites are facing a challenge because our industries are not that adventurous to go for a high material cost initially. So what happens? We always believe that once the initial cost is low, then the product can penetrate into the market very effectively. But every time it doesn't work out. Now, composite, since morning, already Dr. Swami Naidu might have given you the feel of the composite, nano composite. So, very simple definition of composite: you are having more than one or two these things, fillers or fibers or anything, and you require a resin or any matrix. It can be resin, it can be any polymer or anything, metals also, ceramic also, carbon also. So, and then you combine and you get a composite. Now, this is very simple definition, but what happens now? Depending on the applications, you require the polymers or all those things are there. So we don't work into the plastics to develop the high grade plastic or something. We are working only into the advanced composite, where uh, only very selected, very high performance properties are required. Now, depending on the matrix, the composite is classified into different categories, like metal matrix composite or the ceramic matrix composite, the polymer matrix composite. Polymers can be thermostatic resin, thermoplastics, all those things are there. Now, these are the uniqueness of the composite, why you requires composite in any area. Just a minute, I'll call you back. So that way it becomes very easy. It has a high strength to weight ratio, high stiffness to weight ratio. All those properties are well known. You must have, all students have gone through that. This is nothing new. But what is new, and we will try to discuss here. The carbon is always a attractive material. Why this is attractive, I'll show you later stage why carbon is so important, but fibers are important. The carbon fibers are made out of four precursors: the polyacrylonitrile, the pitch or the vapor grown or rayon based. But the basically polyacrylonitrile is the most popular precursor, which is popularly known as pen. This is the pen fiber, gives the carbon fibers. These are simple acrylic fibers like whatever we make the sweaters, but a special grade of sweater fibers, polymer fibers, will convert it into carbon fibers. Now, if you compare the dimensions of that human hair to these things, this varies. Human hair is about 60 micron to 60 to 100 micron. So you can see the comparison. If you see the microstructures of fibers, this is also different. Now, what makes that important in this composite? Everybody is making composite, everybody is importing fiber, and then the matrix is they are making it, but the properties of all the groups are not same. Whereas the fiber source is same, the matrix is same, matrix is commercial, fiber is commercial, but the properties of composites never be same. What could be the reason? The reason is simply the processing, and processing leads to a fiber matrix interface is one of the important parameter which is always controls the properties, whether it is thermal or mechanical or anything. Now when you keep these things like properties of fiber constant, properties of fibers are constant. Now in India we don't make carbon fibers, we always import. So people know, though you people are from the aeronautical department, the Torreca based Torre T300, different grades of carbon fibers are there. Matrix is of course we make, but the high grade, special grade epoxy, which is called this araldite L by 556 or grade 953 grade, which is a aerospace grade, is a Sibagaigi product. So that is, all those things are common, but still we are not getting the properties what we are supposed to get, and different groups will have different properties because the processing difference, and the interface of fiber and matrix is very very crucial. As I told you, if you take the specific strength and the specific modulus of all the materials, the metals are always into the lower side, even though they are structurally very strong, very popular. But if when it comes to the modulus and other things, the carbon is the unbeatable material. The carbon is having a different grades of fibers, whether it is high, ultra high modelers or high strength or intermediate modelers. So depending on your application, because cost is also involved into that, because ultra high modelers cost is very high. So depending on the cost and the applications, one has to select the type of carbon fiber. Now, processing of carbon fiber looks to be simple but very little complicated, and that's the reason in India not many, one or two companies are trying, but still long way to go. You take a acrylic fiber pen, you stretch it into a special conditions, and the thermoset will become thermoplastic will become a thermoset, and now the polymer is a stabilized polymer, and this process will be the fiber is carbonized. Carbonization means about a heat treatment of 1,000 degree and plus, and then you graphize it. So graphitization means about 2,500 degree and above. You graphize it. But since carbon is a neutral surface, so it does not react. So commercially, the carbon fiber is given a surface treatment for introducing the surface groups, so that the interface can be, it becomes a very strong interface. And then these are the toe, which is having a many filaments, sometimes 12,000 filaments in a single toe, or 3,000 to 10,000, 12,000 is very common. So it is given a epoxy sizing. So to handle, now whatever you see, this is a commercial grade carbon fiber. In this toe, around 3,000 filaments are there in a single toe. Now this carbon fiber, because the main load bearing material is the reinforcement, the whatever reinforcement will happen, that will only give you the strength or the properties. So many times it is not the unidirectional which is useful. You require bidirectional or multidirectionals, even sometimes the radial, especially in the wheels and other things, aerospace wheels, you require a radial weaving pattern of the carbon fabric or the fibers for exploiting the better properties. Now, a carbon and the composite is simple composite. You take the fibers, you take any one directional, two directional, three directional, any directional, the reinforcement, and then you take into the matrix. Matrix can be thermosetting resin, thermoplastic pitch, or hydrocarbon gas, which is we popularly call it CVD, the chemical vapor deposition. Now this becomes a polymer composite. Now this polymer composite is having its limitations. It cannot be used for high temperature application. To make it a high temperature application, it has to be carbonized, and then once you carbonize it, the polymer will leave its non-carbonation material will go out. It becomes a highly porous. It has to be densified, and this whole process is called impregnation cycles. So this will lead to 1 to 4 times depending on the matrix what you are selected. And finally, if you heat treat to 2200 degree and above, or sometimes 2700 degrees centigrade, so your matrix completely will also convert into carbon. So that's why it is called the carbon composite, where the carbon in carbon matrix the carbon fiber is reinforced. So and that becomes the carbon because of its high temperature capability. That become a very unique material to for high temperature applications. You cannot think of any other material other than the high temperature when it comes to more than 2000 degrees centigrade. Now, as I told you, the cost of carbon fiber will vary depending on the processing. The high modulus fibers are very expensive. If you go compare the tensile modulus, if you go for a higher modulus, the higher modulus fibers are required for aerospace applications, whereas high strength carbon fibers or low strength carbon fibers are required for sports or golf sticks, because they're low cost materials. But little intermediate things like turbine blades or something, or a pressure tank, you require a different type of properties fiber. But you see, the aerospace always requires a high modulus fiber, because modulus will give the rigidity, and that is a factor of rigidity, and high rigid materials are required. Now, if you see the few applications or few properties or few features of carbon composite, it is a lightweight and low density, high strength and stiffness, exceptionally very good thermal properties, high fracture toughness. And if you just see all these properties combinations, you cannot get any single material which is having combination of these properties. Now, the major areas are the missile nose tip. The nose tip, I will show you some photograph, and the leading edge, the rocket motor throats, the heat shields, missiles, furnaces, furnace insulation, heating element, exit targets. List is go on. These are the only few. Now this is the nose tip what I was talking about, that nose tip. This nose tip is because the when missile will enter into the space, and then the temperature encountered is 2500 degrees centigrade. There is no material which can withstand. So it acts as a sacrificial material, and then it sacrifice and protect the missile, and the all electronics will guide the missile to go into the enemy's area, and then do the damage. So if this material is not there, carbon carbon, the missile cannot enter into the space and cannot work the function. So it is a sacrificial material, but very important material. That the missile cannot enter the space without facing the temperature of 2500 degrees centigrade. And this the material, only material is carbon carbon composite. There is a lab in Hyderabad called ASL, Advanced System Laboratories, which makes, there is separate group on advanced composite, makes only the carbon carbon composites. Many more than 100 people are working there. So those who are developing only the carbon carbon composites for missile nose tips and the brake pad. This is the brake pad. Looks to be very simple. What is so special about the normal brake pad? Just imagine an aircraft. The weight of aircraft is more than 500 tons, and the speed what it comes onto a runway is around more than 500 kilometer per hour. So if you take the half mv square, the velocity is 500, mass is 500 tons, the kinetic energy involved is half mv square. If you take it very very high, the material encountered that much of heat. There is no material which can withstand that high heat. So you require a material which can dissipate very fast heat, and there comes the role of carbon carbon composites. The carbon fibers are made into such a way that they dissipate the heat very fast. Since you people are from aeronautical, I will share you that this is the weaving pattern will decide the heat dissipation. It is not simply the fiber direction, because as you go on to the kink of the fibers, the patterns, the properties will change. In any airspace, the composites are like this. It is a A320. The civilian aircraft also, you will have a lot of composite material, and you can see almost a very very significant contribution from the composite industry in aerospace. Now when you, I'll show you some studies about the interfacial studies. So for that we have taken the fibers, the reinforcement, and the matrix. So what exactly, as I told you, the mainly depends on the following factors: the type of fiber what you take, the type of matrix, and the end heat treatment temperature, or ultimately the fiber matrix interface. The all these parameters are taken into account. So reinforcement was the high strength carbon fiber, which we call it ST3 and HTA. The high modulus carbon fiber was HM45 and HM35. X340 was the no surface treatment. It was especially imported from the Torreca company without any surface treatment. So if you can you can say with a neutral surface. So to just to know the interface studies, we have taken this. And the intermediate modulus carbon fiber, which is IM500. So these all were the from the different companies, Tobesloan and Torreca. The matrix was taken from this phenolic resin, the salt type. A coal tar pitch was also another source of carbon. And as we know, the major component of the cost of carbon carbon composite come from the carbon fiber. So one study we also tried to reduce the cost of carbon fiber. I will show you here. So to know the surface energetics of surface groups, we did the TG analysis and then found that the 6 number, which is the high strength fiber, is having the highest surface group, and the 1 number, which is the no neutral, is having the lower surface group, and accordingly the modulus increases, the surface groups also becomes very less. And from the ESCA or from the element analysis, we have estimated the amount of surface groups and type of surface groups, and then try to develop the composite out of it. So this is a mechanical performance of the polymer composite. When it is a polymer composite, you can see very interestingly, the strength, it is in the blue bar, is lower as compared to the strength of a high strength fiber. So the directly strength of the fiber is translated into the composite, and accordingly we get the where the strength of the fiber was low, the composite also perform low. But when you have heat treated those samples and effectively the carbonization and graphitization, we have call it the skeleton densified and graphitized. The densified means the carbonized composite. So if you just compare the skeleton means just as it is without any densification process. You see here the 3x40, the strength is increased as compared to the ST3, but the highest strength what we have achieved was in the HM45. It means what? It means the interface whatever was found, no interface was there or very weak interface was there. It is not reflecting when it is a graphitized the matrix. It will not reflect directly into the composite properties. If interface is very strong also, it will not reflect. You requires the interface intermediate. It requires a different understanding, because if material is very strongly bonded, you will develop a crack onto the matrix, and these perpendicular cracks will break the composite catastrophically. Whereas if it is an intermediate, these things, your crack will propagate along the fiber. And if you just see that the shrinkage and the other properties also, the higher surface growth will lead to a higher shrinkage. The indirectly it can be also observed into the micrograph. When you take the fracture of all this material, the high strength material which is having a strong interface is having a fiber matrix interface is very strong and leading to a catastrophic failure. Whereas the high modulus fiber which is having a gap between the two, and these gaps will lead a forced fiber to pull out, and eventually you will get a high strength in the fiber composite. And intermediate modulus has given the properties intermediately, and this is the indirect correlation of the fiber matrix stress strain curve. The thermal properties are also like that. If you take a carbonized cloth, the skeleton properties are good when you have taken a densified along parallel to the fiber, or the properties are measured along the fiber axis or across the fiber axis. So along the fiber axis, because that is the a direction, will give a higher thermal conductivity. Similarly, when you graphitize it, the gap increases very high. It is running into a very high thermal conductivity as compared to perpendicular to the fiber. But when you graphitize it, the conductivity values increases more than 100 watts per meter per Kelvin. Another study, what as I told you, some efforts we have made it for economical purpose, because these composites were carbonized and graphitized separately, and taken a carbon fiber which is already pre-carbonized and graphitized. We thought of it, if we take the fiber at this stage, which we call the pre-carbonized stage, and then develop a composite, and then try to see whether the in situ carbonization graphitization of this along with the fiber can be save some money, the processing money. So idea was very interesting, and this we have given the nomenclature: pen, PR1, PR2, PR3. These are the properties. If you see the surface energetics of these things, the highest surface growth was into the PR3 as compared to PR1. So when we have made the composite were made with a fiber volume fraction of 40 plus minus 2, and then the flexural strength we found it, the PR1 is having the highest surface energetics, is giving a high strength. But when you and of course dimensional changes are also high when you take the higher surface energetics. But this is a resin based composite and the coal tar pitch based composite. So these are the two different composites. So the very strange things we have observed, that the fibers were not stabilized, they were so weak, the interface was so strong that they have the interface, the matrix has, during the heating they have pulled the fiber, and you will get like a hollow. The fiber pull was so strong, and it has become a hollow fiber. But you can see the annular fibers, many fibers are there, and there is an annular gap. The concentric gap was there, and the fracture surface, these are the coal tar pitch, the fracture surface was also very catastrophic. But when we have graphitized this sample, that the situation has changed, and the fiber matrix interface have modified, and in the PR3 which is having a higher surface group has given a very reasonably increase in these things. So but the highest was into 243. Now this is comparable to the T300. So that has given a very strong reason that if you just do the processing in a controlled way, one can achieve with a low cost material a good properties. This is the the microstructure under polarized light, one can see the anisotropy of, and then during this graphitization process, the fibers also get modified. So the failure mechanism can be explained in two simple lines. The failure in fibers, if it is a ductile matrix like polymer matrix or metal matrix, you require high interface strength is desired. That is one conclusion. And the second conclusion, if it is a brittle matrix or like ceramic or a carbon matrix, you require a low interfacial strength is desired to allow the cracks to deflect along the fiber matrix interface, thereby allowing the fiber to pull out for the purpose of increasing the toughness. This is very important, and this work I have presented in US also long back. Hmm. And this was published in Carbon Journal. Now, nanotechnology, what is nanomaterials, nanotechnology, or nanoscience? Now, this is having a very strange this thing, whether we are in the era of nanotechnology or into the nanoscience. Because if you see the historically, before going into this is a very strange slide, in the sense 25-30 years back, these all items which is shown in the screen were the very commonly used in our household, whether it is a radio, movie cameras, or record players, or fax machine, alarm clock, the telephone, and the wired telephones. All those things were very common. But now we don't have all those things, because all those things were replaced by a single device called a smartphone. And since 2011, that has become so, all those things were integrated. So all those performance whatever we have seen here can be performed by a single device. Now what has happened, is it so simple, it is so easy. It is the requirement of the materials. Now materials are expected to perform multifunctional. It has to perform for optical properties, mechanical properties, thermal properties. All the properties has to be is expected from the same materials. Earlier for structural you were having a different type of material, for functional property you were having a different, but now the everything is expected from the similar material. So that's why the combination of properties into a one material is very, very important. The As I told you, the historically nanotechnology was in very much in use. If you see the all in European buildings or in this the buildings which was having colored glasses, still they are colored because the gold particles are dispersed in glass. And a very popular Lagergus cup, which is a green in color, but when you pass a light it will transmit the light and then it becomes red. Basically the gold particles are giving a reflection into the glass. And these are nanoparticles. So nanoparticles were there earlier. Even go back into the Harappa and Mohenjo-daro also, the artifact what was found in excavation is also having nanoparticles inside that. So it was very much in use. But before going that, even this katuka or kajal is also people were using since centuries. They were not knowing what is the purpose of this kajal or something, but since our ancestors have told to use that, we have started using it. But now we know, because we have equipment, that there is a nanocarbon which can absorb the ultraviolet rays and protect our eyes. Now even in all those things, if you just add the carbon nanomaterials, you can enhance the properties. Like our Tipu Sultan sword, when it was analyzed, there was a carbon nanotube was found, and it was Damascus sword or anything. You just say take any high strength material, you will find that carbon was there. Now nanotechnology, everybody is talking, all departments, all colleges, and all institutes are having, because it is having, this is affecting almost all areas of your applications, whether it is electronics or computers or the aerospace or DNA, biological, defense, sports, cosmetics, you name any area, you will find the nano materials. And of course, there is a big money involved into this. A lot of countries have started their own mission. In India also there is a nano mission. People apply, they are exploring the different properties of nanomaterials into this nano mission. Before going into the further nanotechnology, always the nature is very and driving force for scientists or researcher to look into a different perspective. Like just see the nano spider or this spider nano silkworm. This silk or spider net, the spider silk, which is nothing but a protein. But if you just accumulate that and make a some sheet out of it, it can stop the bullet. The maximum speed of a 329 or maximum weight of a 2.6 gram weight of a bullet can be stopped by this. So that's how it goes, because the specific strength of this material is very high. So nature always gives you a direction. If you go into a nanofibers or nano these things, you can always play with the strength, and you can get the desired properties. Like sometimes fantasy looks to be fantasy one time, but these are the like a 40 years back Superman is a with a special dress. The all bullets can be stopped by the Superman. This is looks to be very common in fantasy, but now it is a reality. We are making, our DRDO is making a bulletproof jacket, and which is weighing hardly 2 to 3 grams or 2 to 3 kilograms. Whereas if you just see in our middle medieval period, Rana Pratap, if anybody has visited the Udaipur, around 75 kg of that kavach, the protector, he used to hold it and then go for a war. The 77 around more than 50 to 75 kilogram, which is very heavy for any person. You become, your efficiency comes down. Now it is hardly 2 to 3 kgs. So that's how the materials always plays a very important role into the development. Now, as I told you, the nano in our life, nano is always a very important material, because if you just go back into the 30 years back, there was a big hype of superconductivity. Superconductivity, 4 5 years, people have started all over the world. People have started working on superconductivity, but unfortunately, it could not withstood the expectations of the society, and finally, society has rejected it. Now, people are still working, but very few, you can count on the fingers. Whereas in nano, 30 years back, also it started after 90s, early 90s, it started in a big boom, the nano. But if it is not, it has not offered anything for the society, it also would have lost somewhere. But fortunately, nanotechnology has offered a lot of things into different areas of applications, like sporting goods, golf clubs, tennis rackets, other things are there, paint and coatings, computer chips, nanocomposite plastics, sun cream, nanotextures, wound care, cosmetics. These are the few list. I will show you some of the examples here. If you take a washing machine or refrigerator or gas stoves or microwave, now the people talk it nano silver coating onto the uh, washing machine, or onto a anti corrosive or anti scratch coating onto gas stove. Now gas stoves are not very common, very new. These are for last 5 decades they are in the market. But what is new in this, the coating given onto the gas stove is a heat resistance, corrosion resistance, scratch resistance. So it life has increased. Even the spatula, knife falls also, there is no scratch. The beauty, the everything will can be retained. Similarly, in our washing machines, the drum and everything is coated with such a coating material that the life enhances dramatically very high. As I told you, in the cosmetics or into the creams and other things, many things, nano zinc oxide, all those schemes, the pharma companies, others are, they are putting a lot of nanomaterials into their cream, and these the products are already into the market. Now, in the recent last year 6 months, we have seen the COVID effect, and realized the importance of the purified air, purified water, everything. So this purification, the filtration, air filtration, water filtration, once upon a time they were very elite class. People used to say, no, no, it is only for, we are very happy with what we are getting it. But now it is a compulsion on all people to even take the purified, the people are putting almost 100% people are putting mask, of course cloth mask, but there are special grade of masks are there which can prevent the COVID. Of course there are a lot of challenges, lot of controversies, but the importance of purified air and water is never be ignored, and the nanotechnology is always offer a very good solution for that. The nano coating given into a tools of mm, medical tools, which helps into your surgery or something, will be last long. They will not rust, they will give any rust or something. Your food utensils are also very good. The your watches, bangles, you just name anything. even including the tiles, whatever we are having the tiles are having no water can stay there, no stain. So if it is a ground tiles, no problem. The first one floor tile, two floor tile, no problem. But if you are looking for, you want to clean the Burj Khalifa, what type of technique one can use, or one can think of cleaning the Burj Khalifa or anything. So you requires a special tile which is having a coating of a self cleaning. So self cleaning coating tiles are should be used, otherwise you cannot clean the Burj, any high rise buildings. You cannot hang the rope or something, one person, like in our commonly in Indian buildings. But nowadays no building is a small building, all buildings are more than 15 20 stories. Of course, USA and Europe and Dubai is known for high rise buildings. So this hydrophobic coatings always help into a tiles. As I told you, the sun protective cares is very important. You require a special clothings, cream for to protect the sun control. The food packaging is also very interesting area. Like Hyderabad is very popular for Hyderabadi biryani, and if you want to taste it here, no problem. But the same biryani you want to carry to Delhi, it becomes a issue. The same day you have to consume it, or maximum within 24 hours. But if you want to carry the same biryani to other places, your packaging becomes very important. Like your haldiram food items or all those things, your gulab jamun or anything you want to carry to USA or any other places, your packaging becomes important. It has to be packed in such a way that it can last for a long time. So there are special packaging groups are there in Hyderabad, because in Hyderabad many people fly to USA and then they carry the pickles and special chutneys for their food. So packaging, and if you just give a coating or nano or some materials, it gives a very long life to a material. I'll tell you one example here. If you just see the Uncle Chips packet, the always all food packaging are always silver from the inside. The reason is the aluminum foil or aluminum film is coated in such a way, and that's a technology I have developed, as I told you, metallizing industry, because aluminum wire is evaporated on, and the aluminum fumes will deposit, the vapor will deposit onto the plastic, and that's the reason it will give a long life. Otherwise normal plastics are not a food grade plastics. So only all, whether it is a pan parag or any gutka or any things, they're all materials, packaging materials are silver from the inside. These were very uncommon till last year. Until last year, these were only people used to say, only special type of people, those who are into the chemical warfare or want to protect. But these are very common now because of corona. Sometimes something good. Now this PP kit or special type of canisters which can be prevented the whatever bacteria or something you want to stop, you require a special type of materials, especially the activated carbon, which is given a different type of surface treatment, can be absorbed all the materials whatever comes in. And depending on your materials and the uses, you have to clean these canisters regularly. Apart from that, very interesting is the targeted drug delivery system. Those who get affected from the cancers, they have to go for a chemotherapy or something. But once you have taken a targeted drug delivery, the drug will target to the cells which is affected, which will not affect to the good cells. And because of that, the patient need not to be suffer with any other hair loss or the weight gain. They become not that good looking like before. There was one Telugu heroine, I don't remember, Vaishnavi or something. She has suffered, and all of a sudden the whole beauty has gone. And then, because this is very common in cancer, and the chemotherapy treatment always having a side effect. But if you are having a targeted drug delivery system, you need to only just hit the affected cells and protect the other part of the cells. As I told you, this is the nanomaterials can penetrate very easily into your skin, as compared to the micro particles. So because the pores of the natural pores of a skin is very fine, so it penetrates, the nanoparticles get penetrate and it heals fast. And similarly, if you see this a girl which is having a white half face and without anything. She's applying the cream both the side, but the one side is visible, the micro, other side is nano. So the particles whatever she is dispersed in a cream is not visible. Like if you see in the cricketers, few years back, the white color cream was very popular in our cricket ground. Our Indian players also used to apply, and then everybody used to apply. But now the cream is not visible. It's not that players have become strong, or the sun has become mild or something. Nothing like that. It is the cream. The cream they are still applying, but only thing is the cream is not visible. As I told you, the hydrophobic coating, if there is a fall of a coffee or beverage or any other things or tea, there will not, it will not stay into the cloth, and it will just wash away. And if since nothing will stay into your cloth, dust will also not stay. You not required to frequently wash the cloth. Otherwise, in India is a tropical country, you are forced to wash the cloth very regularly. But once it is into, no stain will be there, the wash, you don't require to wash it that regularly. So you can save the preserve the water and other things, which is very precious commodity, especially in India. So as the rock rackets, the tennis rackets or the badminton, everywhere the nanoparticles are dispersed in such a way that gives a additional flexibility, and because of that you can get extra momentum into your service ball. The racket weight comes down, your efficiency goes up. Like for example, the Nadal now does a service of 160 kilometer per hour, whereas the Bjorn Borg 50 years back or 45 years back used to do the service only 120 kilometer per hour. It is not that the Nadal is more stronger than the Bjorn Borg, but the racket what Nadal is using is having a more flexibility, and because of that, he is gaining extra mileage into the service. If you see the aeronautical being these things, this turbine is very commonly used. Graphite is carbon is always find in applications into turbine. If you go to a high temperature material to press, then still you require carbon dyes. You cannot use any other material other than this. This was that was a different this thing, but now it is a for common man use the rackets, the golf sticks, the hockey sticks, anything. You just take it. The applications of carbon fiber or something is there. Even the carbon is in all tire industry. The carbon black is used. These are the very simple applications. Looks to be like this is a graphite brush, carbon brush, which is always in all common in all mechanical motors, electrical motors. This is transferring these things. All filters, high temperature filters are there. They are the graphite foams. So you require different type of applications. And of course, in bio also, a lot of composite materials are being used. These are the things for replacing the plaster inside. In fact, it doesn't react with the blood cells, so it can go into the body. A lot of these packs are there, which is having activated carbon, can absorb all your things. Earlier days people used to even use as a tooth powder when they were using the activated carbon powder, black color. So the salt and this coal powder was very popularly used, and there's a reason now this Colgate company, when they came to India 100 years back, they started laughing that Indians are all fools and all, they are all backwards. Our Colgate is a good paste, start using, and after 100 years they are asking, kya aapke paste mein namak hai? So which shows that still they now they are realized that the coal and the namak or salt is very important for cleaning. And that's how the even the Western companies are also looking the Ayurvedas or Indian product very effectively. This is how the particle size changes the color. If you see, the particle size is changing the color, and it is very common, because if it is the cadmium selenide particles, the size of the particle goes up, and accordingly the color. And this, if you see, that this is so simple. Why we have talked about the nano, but why it is so important nano? It is simply the high ratio to surface area to volume is very important in nanoscale. One has to remember, just for example, just for sake of understanding how nano is very important into this era, when the materials are less, availability of materials are less, the requirement is very high, the population growth is very high, the same small material has to contribute to a larger section. So you have to have a control uses of materials. In this scenario, if you just take the one cube and then break into 8 pieces, the surface area increases. And if you just each pieces, if you break into 8 further and you repeat it into about 25 times, then you will get from the same cube a powder which can cover the football stadium. And that's the very interesting. The surface area increases in such a way that the same cube can perform, because it's the surface activity which is very important in some of the applications. Now coming back to nano, what it changes, the surface to the volume ratio is always very important. If you want to get it, the hot coffee, and you want to make it cool fast within a minute, Sweta asked you to finish your coffee and come to class fast. Now within a minute, how you can do, you start pouring from one cup to the other cup, or putting this coffee into a bigger cup or bigger container. What exactly you are doing it, you are bringing the all most of the particles onto the surface. When you are pouring from one container to the other container, also you are exposing the maximum particles onto the surface, and that's why they are dissipating the heat and becoming cool. So this is very commonly we are using in day to day life, but we don't understand what it is exactly scientifically happening. If you see the smaller size, 10 micrometer powder will give you a 0.22 meter square per gram surface area. But when it becomes a 50 nanometer, the surface area is almost more than 200 times, which becomes 44 meter square per gram. The particle size, the surface area, the surface to volume ratio, everything it can be multiplied. Now, how to get the nano is very important. There are only two techniques. Either one has to apply for a top down or a bottom up. Top down technique means you start with the bigger materials and go on to reducing the size. You will, that it is called top down. And when it is called bottom up, you start with the molecule and atoms and then you start fabricating it, and that's how you get the bottom up processing. Now every technique is having its own advantage and disadvantages. It is less expensive, the top down you can do in your any lab can do, just purchase a high mills or a planetary mill and start milling it. You will get, even in your mixie, kitchen mixie can give you a material which can be a nano. But are you getting the what you want? The particle size distribution, the morphology of the particles, can you control those things? You cannot. So you have to have a very systematic approach to get the materials whatever you want. Otherwise, all non-consistent performing materials you will get it, and eventually you cannot develop any technology or something. Now in the sol gel, you requires a very easy, but the cost of solvents and the chemicals are being used is very expensive, and disposal of chemicals also becomes sometimes challenge. So one has to take a very good call before selecting, depending on the application, how much what degree of tolerance you can afford in your processing or in your material. Now this is a very important slide. Why important is because when the material becomes a nanoparticle, the same material like say iron or aluminum or carbon, and the electrical properties, magnetic properties, or mechanical or optical or chemical will no longer same what it is in the form of bulk. In nano, all properties get changed. So when all properties started getting changed in nano, it is no longer into the bulk form what it was having. So we have an opportunity to redefine the periodic table. Now because other than the name, what is common in an iron, the density of iron is different, the melting point is different, the everything is mechanical properties, optical properties, chemical properties, like aluminum become a pyrophoric when it is in nano, or the gold becomes white when it is in nano, or the melting point of a steel comes down to 780 degree instead of 1400 some change, or around 1500. So everything changes, the physical properties, mechanical properties, everything. So we have an opportunity to redefine the periodic table, and that's the reason all over the globe people are working in the nano, because you are always you can expect any exotic result in your research. And that's very important, because this exotic research, that's the reason all the nation is giving a lot of emphasis onto the nano research. Now coming to the carbon nanostructure, what exactly is there? The we have a different type of fullerenes and other things, the nanotubes. Now, carbon is the only material which is having a very, depending on its structure and other things, can be one of the hardest material like in diamond, one of the softest material like in graphite, the white, the black, the strength, everything you can change in the by nature has given the material carbon such a blessing that it can form one of the hardest material, one of the softest material, one of the porous material. The material can do anything blender with this material science, and you cannot not carbon cannot be replaced by any other material. Now we will not talk about diamond or something, we will talk about the graphite. Why this is very important? Graphite, because it is low density material, chemically inert, high thermal and electrical conductivity, low thermal expansion, low coefficient friction, self lubricating, biocompatible. All these things are very good, but this is the only material in the whole periodic table which can retain strength at high temperature. There is no other material which can retain strength at high temperature, and that's the reason. So carbon is the ultimate choice for high temperature. There is no other material which can be made, because whatever strength you are measuring at room temperature, the either strength or properties will remain same at high temperature. This is a list of your different applications: the brake disc, rocket nozzles, nose tips, EMI shielding, the nuclear valve. The first valve of the nuclear reactor is always a carbon, that can be used as a filtering the radioactive material, dyes and mold, as I told you, turbine blades, cutting abrasive building materials, and chemicals applications like hydrogen storage, battery. You will find always the electrode material is carbon. The fuel cell, artificial hearts, and other things are already people, Western world people are making it. Adsorbent like activated carbon for water purification. People are using the activated carbon because every 6 months the engineer comes and changes only one thing in your aquaguard is only the carbon. No other material, all lime and everything was retained, only the carbon materials get absorbed, saturated, and it is replaced. Then there are other applications like pencils, heat insulators, conducting paste. So you can see this, the carbon is having a wide range of properties, and accordingly, depending on your properties, it can be exploited for various applications. Now the nanotubes can be synthesized by 2 3 techniques. Many techniques are there. What we have in our center is the arc discharge. The top one is the arc discharge. This is a closed reactor we filled, and the 2 graphite electrodes are there, and after passing a very high current and voltage, you will get one electrode will evaporate and deposit onto the other electrode, and this electrode will have a plenty of carbon nanotubes. Now there is another called CVD, chemical vapor deposition. You take a normal furnace and pass a hydrocarbon gas, and at high temperature you can deposit the carbon nanotubes. Apart from that, we also have arc underwater setup. This is the laser ablation and the fluidized bed reactor. This is for continuous production. Now people are anyway aware about that. What is exactly the carbon nanotube? Carbon nanotube is a single graphene layers rolled in such a way that it becomes like a seamless tube, which is having a nanometer diameter. That's why it is called carbon nanotubes. If it is a single layer, it is called single wall. If it is a multi-layer, it is called multi-wall. So the how it get folds by nature will decide its properties, like it can be a armchair, or the zigzag will decide whether it is a metallic or semiconductor. Now if you see, as I told you, you people are from the aeronautical, the all this nanotubes features, you just see the young modulus 1 terapascal. The tensile strength is 60 gigapascal. Steel is 2 GPa. Conductivity of CNT is 10 to the power 9 ampere per centimeter square, whereas copper is this. So now, when you earlier we were looking for a nanotube, copper for high conductivity, steel for high strength. Now this material is having a combination of all the properties, all the best properties, and then that's why it is one of the most choice material. But of course, challenges are there. We will discuss on those challenges also. Now another applications of this is going into electrochemical applications of CNTs. like all the whether it's in lithium ion batteries or something, the ion goes into the host as a graphite. In hydrogen storage, because this was very popular once upon a time, but there are a lot of controversial reports because the consistency of the results was not there, sometimes 2%, 11%, 4%. So many people are not working, but still it is if you do systematic research, this is one of the possible candidate for absorbing the hydrogen. It can be used as for different applications, like the carbon nanotubes can become a substrate for protein absorbing, or it can be act as a nano balance into this because it holds the material very strongly. It can be used as a probe material, like in our SCM or AFM or anywhere. The probe material is always the will, because that undergoes to a many changes chemical. It has to be strong enough, and that's the reason our FESEM, the field emission SEM, has come because of the replacement of the cathode. Now the nano structured cathode is there, and because of that the magnification goes very high. This is another applications of a nanotongue, because the sensitivity of this it changes very the small resistance changes also can be observed by using the nanotubes, and that's why it can be useful into the beverage industry, where the alcohol, or the tea industry, or the coffee industry, where the taste is important and that decides the cost of the material, the cost of the product. The peter scotch is expensive than the beer. The reason is simple, because it is processing, and or even the yellow green label is costlier than the red label. Electronic industry also look for an applications from nanotubes, because that is act as a actuators when it is applied to a different electronic signals. This is another interesting applications for carbon nanotube. If it is given a coating, it will all the electromagnetic radiations will be get absorbed by these carbon materials, and then that's the reason it will become invisible to radar. So once it become invisible, it becomes like a very important. It can penetrate to very deeply into the enemy's area, and then without getting detected. And that's the reason, if you just see, recall, most of the aircraft, defense aircrafts are black in color, because a stealth coating is given, and there is a special lab called Defense Lab Jodhpur. They are working on stealth material. Of course, the cancer cells can be treated with the help of nanoparticles used. Of course, there is a different science, because you require a resonance and other things, because magnetic particles are there. Those has to be put into a target has to be defined. This is not so easy, but there is a possibility. As I told you, the growth mechanism of carbon, it can be either root growth or tip growth. So you can grow the you require a catalyst. Either catalyst will stay into the substrate, or it will go along with the nanotube, and then you can get a different nanotubes out of it. You can grow nanotubes into a different structures, whether it is pillar or films or pattern growth. Depending on your application, one can grow. You require a different equipment for doing such things. You can grow into the vertically aligned nanotubes, very strong. All nanotubes are aligned, and then the bundles open ends are there. So you do a treatment, and then the open ends will get open up. So depending on the applications, one can look for such type of materials. Now in arc discharge, the nanotubes what we get is not fully purified. It has to be purified by a heat treatment or chemical treatment, but it has to be in a controlled way. Otherwise, excessive chemical treatment can lead to a damage of the nanotubes, or excessive heat treatment can get oxidize the nanotube. So you have to optimize it. Once you optimize it, you will get the purified nanotubes, and that can be analyzed through a TGA and SCM and TEM. Now nanomaterials are very important, as I told you, but the application always is very important. If you don't do processing properly, your nanomaterials will settle down very fast, and you will cannot exploit the properties of nanotubes or nanomaterials. So like in this case, the functionalization and other things, if it is not there, it will settle down. If you do a processing like a different sonications, speed and other things, you do it for a longer period and do proper functionalization, it will be stable for long period. Even this was developed, a alcohol sensor was developed sensor, gas sensors, and other things, different applications. And EMI shielding material absorption ratio was measured in our group. As I told you, dispersion is very, very important. If you see here, the pure epoxy and 1% weight percent of a nanotubes, it becomes completely black. So this dispersion is very, very important. If it is not properly dispersed, you cannot translate the properties of the reinforcement, and that's the reason it has 75 has become 200 and plus the strength of a composite. Now the difference, as I told you, there is a difference between distribution and dispersion. You have just added the material, it may lead to a distribution but not dispersion. So you require a proper functionalization interfacial to get the better interfacial properties. The dispersion is required, not distribution. So one can grow the nanotubes onto the fiber, and then you can do the dimensional control of the composite can be observed by doing this. It was also developed a copper-based composite by the help of SPS, and then we found that the properties changes. This the electrical conductivity has increased 55, where the hardness has gone up to 90. The field emission properties is also very important. Field emission is a simply extraction of electron from a solid through a tunneling of surface potential barrier. The emitted current depends directly onto the local electric field. So basically, you apply a very strong electric field and start force metals to emit the electron, and that depends on its work function of the material. And everything is happening in the vacuum. That's why you required earlier the TV was required a cathode ray tube, a big tube, and the cathode was here in the type, and it will used to emit the electrons, and that's the reason we used to see the TV screen. But you don't require now, because the emission can be done without vacuum. At low voltage also the emission is possible, and now you are having a flat TVs, flat panel displays, and other things are there. You don't require because vacuum is not required. And eventually why it is happening, because you can have in a low electric field, you can use the carbon nanotube, because inherently carbon nanotubes are having a large aspect ratio, atomically sharp tip, high temperature and chemical stability, high electrical and thermal conductivity. All this combination of properties cannot be offered by any other material other than the carbon nanotube. That is inherently you and me have not done. It is a nature has given blessed this carbon material. Now people have made the flat panel is this thing, the angle up to 160 degree, you cannot feel any distortion into the image. Now it is simply the you don't require vacuum, you don't require anything. Even this carbon based paste, if you apply into a plastic sheet and give a pass a current, even the image can be developed onto a plastic sheet also, because you don't require now emission. Emission is happening a very localized way onto the materials, field emitters. Now we have what we did, we have also done on some work on this. We have taken the aligned carbon nanotube and tried to measure the field emission properties. We have made the cathode, CNT cathode, and then develop it. But we have observed the surface, the exposed surface is giving high emission as compared to the bulk. So we have made a whole assembly and scrape it into columns, so that we will get a more surface carbon material rather than the bulk material. The tip, it is a side tip which also emits the electron, and that's the reason this has given a very, very high results, and this project was done for DRDO. The cost of carbon nanotube is always a very controversial. Some people say we are getting in $100 per kilogram. Some people say $10,000 per kilogram. How the cost comes into the picture, depending on the processing, depending on the application, depending on the order of the CNTs, what is the quality of CNTs will decide the cost. So if you just say a very low end application like in plastics, by increasing, or tire or something, by adding 1% or 5% of carbon nanotube, but the volume is very high, so one can get a very low cost nanotubes, which is not of a very high order. But if you go for a very high order carbon nanotubes, which is used in electronic industries like transistors or interconnects, you require the cost is very, very high. So this is another applications of carbon, where we have taken the graphite flakes, chemically treated, and the chemicals has gone into the flakes, and then it is converted into worm. If you see here the flakes, the in chemical treatment, the worm like a snake tablet in our Diwali, and the same tablet can be converted into same worms can be converted into sheet by taking many combination of sheet worms. Now you have not seen earlier the graphite which is flexible in form we have developed, and this flexible graphite founds many applications like gaskets and other things. Looks to be simple gasket. What is so important? Can you just think touch the automobile silencer after 1 hour, 2 hour of running? No, because the heat is generated in engine. Now rubber and other things are very good as a sealing material, but they lose their sealing properties, everything once they are heat generates. So you at that 500 degrees centigrade, not many materials can withstand. There is a graphite, exfoliated graphite is one of the material which can withstand without losing its compressibility and recovery. This is another bipolar plate for the fuel cell applications. So this is a field flow channels where the one side hydrogen is flowing, one side oxygen is flowing, and that's how we get the fuel cell applications. So this is a stack of a bipolar plate into a fuel cell, and then this is a multiple stack of many bipolar plates, because each single cell cannot give you that much of voltage required, 0.7 volt only. So you requires for different 1 kilovolt or 10 kilovolt or something 10 kilowatt fuel cell, you require a stack of bipolar plate. And the major cost of the in bipolar this fuel cell comes from the bipolar plate, and bipolar plate the cost major comes from the processing. So we have developed from exfoliated graphite, which has reduced the cost very drastically low. Another applications, Shweta, how much time I have?
So another 10 minutes, sir.
Okay, okay, very good, very good.
Yes.
Hmm. So now this is another applications of accelerated graphite. There is a oily spill, knowingly, unknowingly, whether in the processing or to the terrorist attack or accidents or anything. But ultimately, it affects the many life, marine life or the tourism. Everything get affected. So we try to study this using this expanded graphite, which is expanded in this form. Can it absorb the oil? And we found that it is selectively absorbing only oil, no water. And then we found that it is around 78 ml, 78 to 80 ml per gram it can absorb, and you can recover back the oil back into this, and this is very interesting activity. Now as I told you, we are working to the technology transfer, so we have done a small setup where you just pass the oil and the water mixture, and then oil and water mixture can be separated by using the graphite powder. Oh, this is I think repeated. This is the sum of the properties of carbon. Now coming back to a last part of the listening talk about the greenhouse effect, because a lot of fossil fuels are being used. There is a lot of challenges. So what could be the solution of this greenhouse effect, or this thing is, one thing is to use the renewable energy, the solar energy or the energy from wind or energy from water. These are very popular, but apart from that, you require say the rechargeable secondary batteries or next generation supercapacitors. Uh, so whether it is a lithium ion batteries or supercapacitors or solar panel or fuel cell, these are the things which you require, and in all those things you require carbon, one form or the other form. Now coming back to this batteries and supercap, batteries are very good, or fuel cells are very good when you require say energy density very high. But if you are looking for a power density, instant power, then you require say capacitors. But there are certain applications which requires moderate power density, moderate energy density, or you cannot sacrifice too much onto the energy density. You want a long life, you want a more power, so supercapacitors will fulfill the requirement. For example, just if you are looking for a 100-meter race, you require a power pack person who can run very fast in a 10 seconds 100-meter. But if you are looking for a 40-kilometer marathon, you don't require power, but you require energy to sustain that for long power. Thus both cannot be interchanged, so both are having a different type of requirement. Now supercapacitors are double layer supercapacitor, or all those things are very common. You can get it from the net. But the important point here is This all these things are happening, a charge transfer, a surface charge transfer. So you requires a very high surface area material as an electrode. Now this high surface area electrode can be activated carbon, can be a different type of nanocarbon. So people all over the world, research is going on to give a surface type, a different type of processing, so that a specific surface area and other things can increase, and then finally the charge discharge and the charge density can be controlled. Aligned carbon nanotube was also one of the possible material which can be, because the charge can be adsorbed onto the different surfaces of the nanotubes. Graphene is another interesting material because this is the latest material in the line. Every time carbon comes in different incarnation. So graphene is of course very popular and giving a lot of publications and other things. But we have tried into a different. There are different technique, exfoliation, cleavage, chemical vapor deposition. Many things are there. Hmm. So those things are used in, and we have taken the graphite flakes, intercalated it, thermal exfoliation. If you give, this is called graphene oxide, and if you do a vacuum filtration, you can get the bucky paper. And here is that few layer graphene, because single layer is always a challenge in this process. So we get a few layer, but if you do a different processing, you can get even to the 3 layers also. As we know, the bombs broken, but ultimately it has to be characterized by Raman and other things to get the graphene has been developed or not. Another technique, the processing can lead to a surface of a graphene from angle of contact from 67 to 109. This shows that it can be changed, converted into hydrophobic to hydrophilic. And that is also very interesting study. Now this technology was transferred to industries, and here some important prominent visitors also visited our. Now I'm done. This thing is a simple slides which shows that Mother Earth is very very beautiful. We should not burn, or we should not use the material which pollute the Mother Earth. We have to give either solution or whatever our ancestors have given. We should be to new generation. We should try to give the same earth or better earth, and that's the very interesting. Just for fun, this man has predicted in 1954 that the home computer will be look like this in 2004. But predictions have gone wrong. Now we are having today the computers like this. So this man was having all this computer whole assembly. He has predicted, because in 1954 nobody has thought that technology will go very fast. Similarly, NASA is predicting with the help of carbon materials they can make a space elevator. And because nanomaterials are having a very unique combination of properties, this is a prediction. We don't know whether it will be a possible, not possible, feasible, not feasible. All those things are not known, because whatever we know in the material science is very small. Many things are still unknown. Every decade people are exploring, and that's why many countless journals are there. You will find new and new findings every time. So more is still unknown, and one way is what people are doing it, just we follow others. So what others are doing, we just become one among the many, and we try to follow, because others are working in nanotechnology, we also should work on nanotechnology, or others are working in carbon, or we should work on carbon, or anything. So you just we go through the literature and then read and then try to imitate. But what will happen? You will become one among many. And it is always better to start something new, which may be little difficult, but at the end it will give you a more returns. Looks to be very fancy, fantasy, all those things, but always the returns. If you want to have a returns, you should have your own thought process. Don't follow others. It is my advice to the all youngsters. Try to do something new. You have to, but to know the subject, you have to read a lot. Thank you very much. And before going this thing, as we know, the solutions are always below us, inside us. But this we always look for a Europe or Western world, that they will provide the solution. And then always we have a philosophy: white is right. If they will give the solution, that will be the best solution. But solution is lying with us. So nobody will give you the solution. If it is given, it will be a third rated solution. If you will explore, it may be initially third rated, but it can be improvised to a first rated if it is your own. So thank you very much. Thank you, the college and management, and especially thanks to Professor Gupta and Sweta for giving me opportunity. Thank you very much. If any questions are there, I will try to answer it. Otherwise, I have done. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, sir. The participants can pose their questions now. I'm unmuting the participants. You can unmute yourself and pose the question.
No problem. I think I can take it that whatever I have told, everything was understood.
Yes, sir.
So I
So,
because I don't want to take it that nothing was understood. I am taking it that everything was understood. So thank you. If anything is there, Shweta, what I suggest, sometimes people have inhibitions and reservations. They can put forward their question to you, and
yes, sir.
you can forward to my mail. I will try to help because ultimately this.
Sure.
So, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot
Thank
to the aerospace engineering department, and your college and all the participants, especially those who were patiently listen. So there are around 50 participants. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much
Yeah.
for the time, sir. On behalf of Aero Department, I wholeheartedly thank you for taking your time out and giving us knowledge. And most of the things what they were practically we are seeing in our daily life, especially that makeup part has touched me. Uh, so how the nanomaterial, nanotechnology is very important in our day-to-day life as well as in the technology. So thank you very much. Uh, Tomorrow the session will start at 10 o'clock. I request the participants to kindly be present
Shweta, can I
beforehand.
leave? Can I leave?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So the tomorrow's session we are having with Dr. B. Ashok and one of the well-known professor from IIT Kanpur, Dr. Sudhir Kamble, which is a session not to be missed by anyone. So I suggest you people to be before time and encourage us accordingly. The feedback form is given in the chat window. I request the participants to kindly fill the feedback form. It will be open for another 5 minutes. After that, we'll close the meeting. So these two are the tomorrow speakers. Suggest you people not miss a session of either of them because they're very well experienced and are doing extensive research in the field.